A few years back in 2008, I had been practicing emergency medicine for 20 plus years. I had a patient try to kill me. When I went into the room to see him, all I knew was that he was a psych patient and that he had stopped taking his meds and that he was hearing voices. And when I walked into the room to see him, he had on a button-down long-sleeve Oxford shirt that was open, and a pair of gym shorts and bare feet. And he was talking to, I guess, people who weren't actually in the room. And I introduced myself. I said, "Hi, I'm Dr. Gabrin. How can I help you?" He excused himself from the conversation he was having with the people I couldn't see. And he looked at me with a real hope that I would be able to help him. And what he said to me caught me really off guard. He said, "Doctor, I need you to stop these flying purple cows from badgering me for sex." At which point, I looked at the ground and I thought to myself, just what I need, another crazy guy who's not taking his medicines. Where's his caseworker? How did this happen? And I pretty much just walked out of the room. I thought to myself, it's busy. I don't really need this right now. I have a lot of sick patients here. And so my first thoughts when he asked me for help were about me and how this impacted me. They weren't about him. A little bit later, I heard some ruckus in that area of the department. And I went back to investigate what was going on, and he was actually beating the living crap out of one of my techs. And so I tried to intervene and stop it, and that's when he latched onto me and tried to choke me. He was much larger than me, and completely overpowered me, and I had all I could do to keep from being choked to death. You know, in the experience of the moment, the only thing I could think of was somebody get this crazy guy off of me, right? It wasn't until months, if not years later, that I realized that the reason that he tried to kill me was because I let him down. I shirked my responsibilities as a physician, and he realized very clearly that I didn't care about him. Once they were finally able to get him off of me, my clothes were torn. I had to actually put the stethoscope back on my neck and walk into another room and see another patient and ask them, "How can I help you?" During that shift, that patient died. And although my best efforts to save him were unsuccessful, his death really spooked me. Not that patients that I'd cared for in the past hadn't died, but something about his death was different to me. And I actually really had a hard time wondering how I was going to continue to practice medicine. It took me a long time, months if not years, to figure out why I was so spooked. But when it came right down to it, I realized that the reason I was so spooked was because of the circumstance and the situation. I really hadn't cared for this patient. And so 20 years into a career in medicine, I realized that I really was not clear about what care was. And so I went on this quest to figure out what care is, because it's not the history and physical exam, it's not the prescription, it's not the splint, it's not the crutch, it's not the physical things that we do that demonstrate our care. So I went to the literature and I researched quite a bit, and I came across a Dutch-born Catholic priest named Father Henry Nouwen, who was a professor at Yale and Harvard, who wrote lots of books. But he wrote one book called The Wounded Healer. And in that book, he talks quite extensively about the idea of care. And as a priest, he was cloistered, and he lived in a community of disabled adults that couldn't possibly thank him for his care. In that book, there's a quote, which I don't remember exactly, but basically he says that the friend who can sit with you in a moment of grief or despair and just sit with you and not try to fix your problem and just experience your grief with you, that's the friend who cares. So he goes on to say that as humans, none of us are actually prepared to enter someone else's pain without wanting to fix it first. And he says that care comes from the Greek word karo, which actually means to lament with or to cry out with. So care isn't something physical that you can hand to somebody. Care is something intangible. It's emotional, it's spiritual, and it comes from our needs as humans to lament our human condition. I mean, we all suffer, we all have pain, and we all ultimately die. So care is rooted in the human condition itself. It's when I finally understood that care wasn't something physical, that care was something intangible, that I really started to get clear about why this person's death haunted me and what I could do to change my practice so that I'd never be in that position again.